Brian is innocent. Brian has been essentially convicted in the media. He has a right to have this information withheld, brought out in public so that people can see it's not this neat little package. So people can start to wonder if Brian's innocent. Your Honor, Brian is innocent. So if I talk about things that are in the affidavit, and if I talk about things that we're seeking that the state wants to hide, I think that's fair game for the public to hear.
Listen up, the ashes stir, phoenix wings unfurl, seeking truth beneath the blur. Turnings for the lax to meet the blur. Out the flames I rise, wings scorched but unbroken. Under this constitution we stand forever free. Phoenix in the dawn, truth ignites the sky. Together we stand tall, no more asking why.
So proud of her, and under the worst conditions, she stood strong.
Mm-hmm. She has never ceased to amaze me throughout this whole entire process. She has just been just amazingly strong. And when we went to the sentencing, we actually did not know what each other was going to say.
Wait a minute. I went to YouTube. YouTube said it was not available. I've gone to Nancy's website, videos. It says it's there under her videos. So let me make sure I got this right. Let me just make sure I got this right. The video was removed on YouTube because Christy said the word grape. We all know what that is. It's code word for grape. I don't want to say it because I don't want my video removed. But what I will say is, how does she know this when they are adamant that they have not gotten any documentation on Kaylee and they have to FOIA the request like everyone else? How could she know this? How is it factual that she can say this beyond a shadow of a doubt and cause basically defamation on an individual? How does she know this? Was she there? Did someone tell her? I don't understand. I'm confused about this. Maybe somebody can enlighten me. But that video I just showed you live, that video on YouTube is no longer available. This is from Nancy Grace's own website. I know she could be a little bit off the chain and disrespectful. And I'm talking about Nancy Grace. We all know that. She's a public celebrity. But let's watch it. I haven't seen it. I want to see it. It's an hour long, but hang in there with me. I don't have any appointments this morning, so let's watch.
Because we did not want to influence each other's speeches. So we did not know. And it was all new. And she got up there and I was just astounded. I was just beside myself. And then when she was done, the audience or the courtroom clapped. And it was like, is that normal? I don't think people normally clap, but it was very surreal. It was very, oh my gosh, what happened? And then, I'm like, I have to hear that again. It was just so good. Just so proud of her, of what she said and the way she.
Okay, I have to stop it. I have to do some commentary. So it's under the Fair Act, but I want to just throw this in there for the thought and logic of this. If they factually know that Kaylee was raped, where's the DNA to prove it? Where's the DNA to prove it is whoever they say it is? Who has that information? And don't you think the parents would scream louder than the public narrative that was given to cover up this case? I mean, if I were Steve and Christy, I wouldn't even care anymore what anybody thought. I would get the facts, share the facts, find the funding, go against the corruption, and scream from the loudest mountaintop. That's me. I would care less about anything else in my life but the truth and justice of the matter. That's me. Maybe they're not mentally at a place if something like that happened to them. Believe me, I was mentally at a place where I wasn't ready to stand up for my own rights. But when I did, the state freaking backed down, guys. You have to know your value and your worth in this life, or people will continue to walk all over you. if they know that they're hiding some corruption, I would move the fuck out of there as fast as I can. Excuse my French today, because you got spicy Phoenix. If you want to watch this with me, great. Let's watch it. I'll shut up the rest of it, but I'm going to interject when I need to.
He articulated it was perfect.
I'm going to play some of your daughter speaking, but as I'm looking at the two of you sitting there so close together, connected, clearly connected, you know, when marriages face the slightest problem, like you don't have enough money, or there's an illness in the family, or just any number of things, marriages break apart. But under the single worst thing that could happen to a mother and a father, the death of your child, which most of us can't even imagine, you two seem even stronger. You seem even closer. How is that happening, Christy?
I honestly, it has brought us closer, just because the pain and the anxiety that we have had, or especially me, Steve has just been so amazing. He's been so gentle with me. He's given me grace. He's given me time to heal. You know, what do you need? Can I help you? And, you know, I try to be that person for him as well. You know, sometimes I just need a hug. When he gets home, I'm like, I just need a big hug. And he just wraps his arms around me, gives me this big old hug, and I just feel better. And I mean, he's been my husband for almost 30 years and, you know, 5 kids. And he's the epitome of an amazing man, an amazing father, amazing husband, all wrapped up in one. I was blessed.
You know what's interesting? So many things about you two are interesting. And so many millions of people have been watching you at a distance. And I'm just so honored that I get to actually talk to you, not just watch you in a courtroom or on a camera. Mr. Goncalves, you have been very outspoken throughout this entire nightmare. And a lot of people have attacked you. I don't get it. Do you even care what they say? I hope not.
No, it just rolls right off my shoulders. I played sports my whole life. I'm used to like constructive criticism, so that I'll take to heart. And you know, sometimes I will misspeak, or I'll say something that, you know, I'll take back because I got my facts wrong. But I'm defending my children and my daughter and my wife, so I don't really take to heart them. I know that there's going to be some people who side with, you know, the other side, and I just keep it at that. I think they have more in harmony with evil than they do good, and their actions reflect that. So I don't waste my time on them.
Well, Mr. Goncalves, our family, the Grace family, has a very old saying: screw them and the horse they rode in on. So that's my legal advice to you. I want to circle back to your daughter, who was absolutely amazing. And you know what? That doesn't just happen. She's amazing because you raised her to be amazing. She didn't just come out that way. She has had years of you as her example. What am I talking about? Listen.
You thought you were exceptional, all because of a grade on a paper. You thought you were elite because your online IQ test from 2010 told you so. All of that effort just to seem important. It's desperate. There is a name for your condition, though. Your inflated ego just didn't allow you to see it. Wannabe. You act like no one could ever understand your mind, but the truth is you're basic. You're a textbook case of insecurity disguised as control. Your patterns are predictable. Your motives are shallow. You are not profound. You're pathetic. You aren't special or deep, not mysterious or exceptional. Don't ever get it twisted again. No one is scared of you today. No one is intimidated by you. No one is impressed by you. No one thinks that you are important. You orchestrated this like you thought you were God. Now,
Did you have any idea what she was going to say, Christy?
No, we didn't. We didn't share our speeches with each other because we didn't want to influence them, and we were writing them up to the minute, literally like editing and adding and taking away. So no, she got up there and she flipped the table. I mean, she flipped it all upside down. We were like, oh my goodness, and she did great. People love her, and we love her. She's our oldest girl, our oldest child, and she's been through a lot with us, being the oldest. So she's very resilient. She's very brave. She's the best big sister to all the kids, and she's incredibly smart. She blows my mind all the time.
I just want to play one more time. I've got so many questions for you, but I just got to play one more tiny snippet of your daughter.
the truth is, the scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be.
And
It's
all
true.
over the world, people joined in that applause. She's amazing. Steve, did you have any idea what she was going to say before she said it?
I did know a little bit of details. We talked about topics, and she said she wanted to use his questions against him, and we all had that same idea. We thought about that, but she earned it. She needed that, and I was glad to give that to her, and that was her talking point. So that was the kind of collaboration we did. But
So let me get this right. Nancy Grace last night goes live, bring these two up here, knowing that these documents were dropping overnight, right? Because it wasn't until almost 11:30 Pacific Standard Time, my time, that I was able to access those documents and bring videos so fast to you, because I didn't go to bed until almost 1:30 this morning. So Nancy Grace sets up the whole interview, has them on the night before these documents, and people wake up and they realize, oh shit, this isn't even Koberger's DNA. It was a female on Maddie's body and a male, very small amounts, and not Koberger's. Do I get this right? This is the narrative they're still pushing? Nancy Grace, shame on you. The FBI analysis showed not Koberger's DNA, no fiber, no hair, no dog, nothing. Nothing. Apartment, car, crime scene, nothing. Zip, zilcha, nada. Nothing burger. Nit. Nothing. I'm floored. I'm blown away that they're still pushing this narrative in this echo chamber for people to say, oh, he's guilty. He confessed. No, he didn't confess. He took a plea deal to save his own life, and his own freaking professor said that. City of Pullman officials said that in their emails to one another. He took the plea deal to save his own life. Wake the frick up, people.
I think when you see her, you have a glimpse of who Kaylee was as well. And when you hear my son, he was speaking as well. When you see the two kids, you see who Kaylee was. And that was our best way of showing the world what had been stolen from us. He was very average, but his victims were exceptional. And that's what we wanted to convey. That's what we were missing. And
what the frick? Are these individuals not reading the ISP, the FBI, the ISP, the reports from Moscow Police Department? This kid, this adult male with autism, was not average. He is amazing. His freaking professor said there's no way he could have done this. Even the expert of Whitman County, Washington, 30-year prosecutor turned professor at WSU, Koberger working in his lab, states, for the record, to the FBI. It crossed his mind, then he realized logic, that Koberger was not strong enough. His own quote. Boy, I am fired up now. after seeing this stunt Nancy Grace did last night, I am freaking fired up for justice. If you don't go to Justice4, FOURALL, and read this information for yourself, if you don't share this with someone, if you don't tell someone today how innocent he is, shame on us. Shame on us. They are trampling on our rights as we watch this, laughing at all of us saying he's factually innocent because he is. They laugh at us. These YouTubers and these social media influencers and these crime sleuths, and they want to discredit us. And if they can't discredit us personally, like, oh, the eyebrows, man, stop eating donuts. Yeah. If they can't discredit us professionally, they go that route. We are living in some dangerous time, folks. Dangerous times. If you're in that echo chamber box, you need to break out.
We wanted the world to know about that, like what we're missing and what kind of a person she was.
Hi, guys. If you are relying
I'm going to stop it right here. As Nancy spews her little commercial, I'm going to spew ours. In this nest, Justice for All, FOURALL. It is all free. Thank you, Christina, my amazing mod. It is all free for you to go and get the documents. No one is charging you for these documents. It is all public information. We as a nesters here donate to keep this website up, and it's going to stay up until Brian Koberger is exonerated, folks. It's not going anywhere. You have my personal promise.
seemingly every headline is about BK, Brian Koberger, what he's going through, what his complaints are, where he's housed. I'm so overhearing about Brian effing Koberger. I want to talk about the victims. Victims all over the world are watching you and getting strength from you. I remember the moment that I turned into a crime victim, the moment I knew my fiance had been murdered. I was standing at a payphone and I could talk, but I couldn't dial the numbers. My hand was like a moth trying to get to the light. I couldn't punch the numbers. I remember it exactly. When Mrs. Goncalves, did you know, without a doubt, something horrible had happened?
It was Sunday, November 13th. We were all here watching the football game. And my niece called me and she told me that something terrible had happened to Kaylee. Her cousin or her husband's cousin went to U of I and something was going on. And she believed that Kaylee was dead. And I threw my phone across the room and I started calling Kaylee.
So get this, she said something happened in her first ever interview with Chronicles of Olivia. She says they were shot. We've got that recorded, guys. They were shot. So if you're telling me that they know all this info and it's accurate, then these people were not stabbed, they were shot. And if she was raped and they know it, how do they have this information? Where is the factual information? Where is it? Because they set this interview up last night to throw you a bombshell and stick with their narrative when in fact this morning y'all wake up, FBI, no trace. DNA, a female, and slightly a male. Guys, you can't make this up. Nancy Grace, this is a disgrace to your viewers, especially loyal people like me. This case needs more truth.
And her phone was going straight to voicemail, so I started calling Maddie and nothing. So I called Olivia and got Olivia on the phone and told her what was going on, but we were still trying to stay calm, saying it's going to be okay. It's going to be, something just is wrong. Well, as the hours went by and we called police stations and hospitals and we got nothing, no information. But we see her house on TV and it's cordoned off with yellow tape. I knew in my heart that something terrible had happened. But for sure, when the sheriff showed up around 5 and came to the door and told us there was 4 homicides.
Mrs. Goncalves, what do you mean? Because I knew Keith was dead before they said he's dead. I knew. When you said you knew in your heart, how did you know in your heart? And what was that feeling? How did you know? And I've heard many, many other violent crime victims say the same thing. They knew before they were told.
Well, I knew just because of my niece calling me. You know, she's a very responsible adult. She's a mother. She's a nurse. I knew that Sabrina would not have made that call to me had she not had facts. So I knew, even though like we didn't have confirmation, but I kept telling Olivia and the kids, she's gone, guys. We don't know what happened, but.
So let me get this right. She has a family member that calls and tells her allegedly they were shot, but yet was she getting medical care somewhere? What is the real story, guys? What is the real story? Hey, welcome in, Criminal Mind Holds. I just showed your video, just a short snippet with Outcast last night, because I was up late looking at these documents, and I saw he was live when I was uploading a video, and so I ran in there to listen to him, and you were there. Welcome in. I'm glad you're here. So what is the real truth, guys? Was Kaylee actually in a hospital getting treatment? Was she injured to where they took her to the hospital? What is the real story? What is Steve and Christy trying to tell us behind the scenes? I'm curious. Inquiring minds want to know.
You know, and we're running around the house frantic. I'm crying. Everybody's crying. We're trying to get in touch with somebody to get answers. And I kept saying, the sheriff will come. If it's true, the sheriff will come. And it was that evening, and I looked out my front window and I saw the sheriff pull up. And I said, the sheriff's here. And I took off to my bedroom. I ran to my bedroom and everybody answered the door. And I came back out about a minute later.
Wait, as a parent, if my child was injured and I heard, I would be racing there. I mean, literally speeding there to get on site, just like all the other parents in this story, this case. Mogan's on site. They were driving when they got the call. Laramie drove down there. Even the Chapins were in their vehicle when the police called them, tried to contact them. All the other parents were down there. Where were they? Watching football and hoping for the sheriff to show up? I'm so confused.
And stood here at the front door and asked him what happened, you know, and he said it was a homicide. And I said, they were murdered? And I asked if one of them was Maddie, because at that time things started clicking. That it could possibly be Maddie, because she hadn't answered me all day long. And they said yes. And we said, how? And they said, we don't know. Here's a card, call this person in the morning. And we were like, should we go down there? I said, no. And I said, what are we supposed to do?
Should we go down there? Hell freaking yes. I would be in my car speeding like a bat out of hell to get to where my child was, whether they were alive or deceased. This doesn't make sense. They had other children that went to school there. They had other friends, families on their way there. The Madden, the Mogans, and I don't get it. Why would they stay away?
What do we do? And he said, just call in the morning.
I'm trying to, I feel like I'm seeing it all play out right in front of me right now. I remember I was holding this big stack of school books. I had just come out of a statistic exam. And I remember just dropping everything. And it was so unreal. You said you ran out into the yard. Do you remember that moment? Where did you think you were going? What were you going to do?
Well, I actually ran to my bedroom. And I just, as soon as I saw that sheriff pull up, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I didn't want to hear it. I was running away. I ran back to that room, and, you know, I was crying, and it just all hit me. Like, this is not a weird situation. This isn't, and, you know, Kaylee's gone.
What? This is not a weird situation. I have to replay this. Guys. Sorry. I have to hear this.
What were you going to do?
Well, I actually ran to my bedroom. And I just, as soon as I saw that sheriff pull up, I don't know. I don't know what it was. I didn't want to hear it. I was running away. I ran back to that room, and, you know, I was crying, and it just all hit me. Like, this is not a weird situation. This isn't, and, you know, Kaylee's gone. Even though I knew all day, but I didn't know. It was just hard to explain, but in my heart, I felt it. And
I knew all day, but I didn't know until the sheriff came to tell you. Did they not try to call? And all the other families did. They showed up at the police department.
It was just the finality. Like, this officer is here, and he's here for a reason, you know? And it was, your whole body hurts. Like, everything just aches, like your fingertips, your toes, your knees, you get shaky. Like, that really happens, like the shaking in the knees. And
now that is true. That is true. That is true. I've been there. And it just brings back a memory for me when I was in the military. My fiance was a Marine, and I got word that he had passed in Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I was broken.
It's real. And I think at that point, I went into shock. And I think that shock lasted for quite a while for me. I don't remember a whole lot after that. I have pretty big gaps in my memory.
Steve, do you remember her running to the bedroom and hiding when the LA law enforcement came up the driveway?
Yeah, I remember her running that way. Aubrey went up the steps, and she went on her computer, and she started. At first we thought it was just like a rumor, some drama, some fake thing. I mean, it's a college town, parties happen, kids do pranks. We thought there was something else going on. At least I did. That's why we were like, if the cop shows up, then, you know, that's not a prank. This is something serious. And even then, I still couldn't fully understand what, you know, you don't know what death is unless you've been familiar with it. And we weren't. This family hadn't been struck like that. So, yeah, there's that door right there behind us, and opened that up, and there's a sheriff there I've never seen before in my life, and Kootenai County car. And thankfully, he gave us a little bit more information than we had at that point. And he cleared up the fact that it was a homicide, and Maddie was involved as well. And we knew Maddie's mom was on the way down there. So we were like, do we call her? Do we let her know that, you know, they weren't going to, they already told us we couldn't go down there and see them. We couldn't go down there and pick her up or anything like that. So, I mean, it's an ongoing investigation. So we just sat in the house and just thought of ways to get a hold of people that had been around the children in the last 20, 48 hours and figure out what's going on. Was this some random act of violence? What was this?
Was it a shooting from a party? Was it the night before? Yeah, I just, you know.
Whoa. Wait a minute. I've been thinking this and someone else. Let's listen to what Christy just said one more time.
We just sat in the house and just thought of ways to get a hold of people that had been around the children in the last 20, 48 hours and figure out what's going on. Was this some random act of violence? What was this?
Was it a shooting from a party? Was it the night before? Yeah, I just.
Bingo. Was it a shooting? Was it from a party the night before? Bing frickin' O. Bingo. Bingo. I am screen recording this. Bing the frick O. She just gave the whole thing away. Good for you, Christy. Good for you.
You know.
Yeah.
We just didn't know.
People were saying it was fentanyl and, all the type of things that would go around. So, and, they wouldn't even tell us any details. I mean, it was months before we actually even knew how they were killed. So it was very frustrating. We got the vandal alert that told us that there was 4 homicides before we even knew what was going on. So they knew before we knew.
Just trying to imagine everything that you're saying. And the officer gives you a card when you go, well, what do we do? He goes, well, just call them in the morning. It's almost like a bank with banker's hours. You can get back to them in the morning. So what do you do all night long when you have this knowledge and you can't go there? There's nothing you can do there. What did you do that night?
I did not sleep at all that night because after what we were, going through, I also called Olivia, and she lives down in LA, and she threw her kids in the car, and her husband jumped in the car, and they drove up here. So they drove through the night. That was about 5, 6 o'clock at night when they left LA. It's a 20-hour drive. So, I was worried about them driving all night, as well. And I just couldn't sleep. And my mind it went crazy. I went crazy.
Yeah, we knew that Kaylee had mentioned being stalked even right up until the weeks that this had came up to that. So I felt like I kind of wanted my family to be focused on something other than just the devastation. So I was like, you're finding out information, get a hold of a neighbor. And the more information that we found, it just felt like that was at least something to grab, that's something we could control, go away from just being victims to being investigators of what happened to our child. And we did find out a bunch of things that those 48 hours from people that were just reaching out and saying, hey, this is what I know. I was right across the street. This is what's going on, and we just went from there.
I remember what you said, Steve. Listen.
Within hours, we had your white car on the camera. We knew from the very
beginning. Or trying to focus off the pain and focus on what happened and finding the truth.
Yes, because Jack actually wound up coming here because he left Moscow and he came here, and obviously he was there at the scene and stuff. So he had heard what Dylan was saying. So once he told us that, because like I said, the officer said that it was a homicide, they were murdered. But then Dylan was saying there was a masked man in our house, and there was somebody in the tree and all this stuff. And it quickly was clear that this sounded like a stranger murder, not like somebody they knew or whatnot. So it really changed things. It felt like just a huge violation. And we just were like, we've got a murder that. And at that time before, I just kind of thought they were going to get him. It was some kid. He went and he shot up the house or something. And they got him. You know, he's
What? What? The only evidence I've read in the ISP report was over at JD's house, alleged bullet residue. That's the only place. And I will show you the document. Holy freaking moly. Let me see if I can bring it up. Hold on. Oh, come on. It doesn't want to find it. Why is this one not searchable? There's few documents in here that are not searchable. There's the presumed blood. Blood, where is the residue from the bullet? Where is it? Hold on. The only blood residue was on King Road, where all the other frats lived with JD. Luminal light source. Okay, hold on. Where Adam lived with JD and all the other brothers. They lived in that house, and it was presumed bullet. It was sent for testing. Presumed for blood and bullet residue. Where is it? Gosh. I wish I would have wrote this one down. Dang it. And it's not in my document. What document is it? Are they trying to tell us or question? She's giving details that are in these ISP documents, and I'm thinking to myself, everyone knows. They're trying to keep it secret. I think she knows exactly. I believe Steve knows. They got the word on the street even before the police knew. What do you think? Well, let's listen to this. I'll find the document. Hold on. Let's finish listening to this. I think she's telling the story without telling us she's telling the story.
walking down the street, and I just kept waiting for the news to say they've arrested somebody, they've arrested somebody. And when Jack told us that, I was kind of like, oh, you know, this sounds a little different than what we're thinking type of murder.
Well, I mean, you're right, because
when Jack told them, yeah, he was sitting in the back of the police car. He was listening to the radio. He probably was listening to everything. I agree.
We're all led to believe, Steve and Christy, that, oh, they died in their sleep. That is not what happened at all.
Well, it's about time, Nancy Grace. Welcome to the party.
Steve?
Yeah. You don't expect the prosecutor to lie to you. And we were lied to. All the parents were lied to. We weren't given the details. They're asking us to make a decision on life or death, and they're not even giving us the details of our own children, let alone the whole circumstance of what happened to them. I know for a fact that when one of the mothers heard what happened to Kaylee, she said this would have changed everything. So it was disgusting, you know, and they kept saying stuff like crime of passion and house or a party house. And we're like, what's going on here? I'm literally watching the surveillance of this road, and this car keeps flying around this house over and over again. They were clearly stalked. I don't care what the prosecutor, maybe he can't prove it because he's just not that good, but they were clearly stalked. He was there multiple times. The officers were distracted with giving minors in possessions when they're literally filming the house that these kids get murdered in. I mean, that town has to clear up some priorities and realize that, noise complaints and alcohol is only a part of their job. And they need to make sure that they're protecting these kids if they want to keep doing business.
I was stunned when I heard there was going to be a plea. I remember the moment. I'm like, what? A plea? I want to circle back to something you said. Okay. Kelly, and we heard dribbles about this at the beginning, had stated that she was being stalked. Okay. But then the prosecution says there was no stalking. We have no evidence of stalking. I mean, how many times can we place that Elantra stalking the King Road address? And Kelly knew she was being stalked. So that is a lie. You stated the DA lied to you. I believe that because there is no way all the parents would have acted like they were going along with his plea.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to say. If you've not read the ISP documents, they did the surveillance from Winco when Kaylee felt like she was being stalked. And in fact, they went back and they saw the video of the guy. They described the guy in the ISP reports. Is this the same guy that followed her from the Winco parking lot to her car that Xana was waiting in? Is this the guy? Is it possible based on the DNA I just proved to you? Is this the guy that was stalking her? I know it wasn't Koberger. Was it the guy at Winco? That's my question. Think about it.
If they had known what we're learning now with all these videos and body cam and crime scene photos coming out, that is not what everybody was told happened.
Yeah, 13 incidents in WSU before this individual was let go or defunded, whatever spin these universities want to put on it. This guy was a nightmare, throwing up red flags everywhere. And those are the type of details that we gotta force our courtrooms to be more honest, and we shouldn't be sealing things up in a case like this. I mean, it's not national security.
Steve, you can't have it both ways. You just can't. You can't spew out of your mouth that it was Brian Koberger when the facts are coming out. They're releasing the facts faster than you can continue the narrative. Now, I feel like you've given some truth, what Christy has said, but you can't have it both ways. It can't be both. It's either one or the other.
It's getting abused. They're abusing these rules that they say, oh, we got to protect. They didn't have anyone to protect. They didn't even have the guy until almost 7 weeks, and they were still hiding everything. So it was just a lie. And, you know, when you call them,
what were they hiding?
Just telling us our child was stabbed
brutally.
How many times?
How many times? We just learned the day before the sentencing, how many times Kaylee had been stabbed.
Wait a minute. I am stunned because she was stabbed so many times. They could not identify her. And you just learned about that when the plea was set to go down?
We learned about it after the plea, the day before the sentencing, because they lifted the gag order. So the detective said that they would talk to us. So we talked to them briefly, and we had questions about Kaylee. You know, how many times was she stabbed? I mean, that's not on her death certificate. The coroner never told us. She just said around 20 is what she said. So we really didn't know, and we didn't know where. So we asked them that, and they told us 38 times. And then we were like, okay. And they said Kaylee had really bad damage to her mouth. And I asked them if her teeth were intact, and they told me no. And then the day of the sentencing, the docs were dropped, the Moscow docs were dropped. And the next day we were driving home, and I was reading some of them, and I read that Kaylee was, unrecognizable. And that was, that word will forever traumatize me. I didn't expect that. And then to read another report that said the same thing, unrecognizable. And then to read a third report that said he wasn't sure what he was really looking at because the facial structure had been so badly damaged.
So that's why we're disgusted with this prosecution team. I mean,
we did not know any of that for 2 years and 9 months. We did not know that because of the gag order.
And they're telling us, are you okay with us giving them life in prison? We're like, no, we're not. And the people who are, they don't know what we know, and we don't know what they know. I don't know what happened to their child. They don't know what happened to mine. It was a protect the business over the victims, over justice. We're still fighting with it. I mean, we're still fighting with it to this day because we're hearing details that he was following girls out to their car and One of the professors said this guy's going to be a problem. If he gets his PhD, he's going to harass students. He's going to freaking abuse his power. All the things that we suspected that were going on, we find this out afterwards. Why they go on a media tour? They only told us so they could go do a media tour and tell all you guys. So they're like, well, we have to tell them before we tell the world. So basically 12 hours earlier, they tell us, and then they grab a microphone and tell the world. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I'm just so stunned at how this was how this went down on you. And there's something about the victim's face, because I know I'm projecting. Keith was shot 5 times in the neck, the face.
That is personal, in my humble opinion. I am no expert, but anytime that they damage a victim's face like that, that is revenge and personal. In my humble opinion, I am no expert.
The back. And I try not to think about it because it throws me into a horrible depression, because I think about the bullets tearing through his face. He had these beautiful blue eyes. And I wonder, were they shot? What happened? Did he feel it? When you learned how many times she had been stabbed in the face, were you full of rage? Were you full of tears? What went through your mind when you learned the truth? Too late.
So we actually learned all the truth from her autopsy report, and we were given her autopsy report on a thumb drive during the sentencing. The investigator walked into the courtroom that day and said, and we had arranged that, and he said, here's the autopsy report. So in reading that autopsy report, we found out that Kaylee had been stabbed 24 times to her face and head. She had 11 to her chest, neck, and like torso area, and 3 to her upper extremities. So I thought about her eyes too. I was like, was her eyes stabbed? But somehow or another, Kaylee's eyes had not been stabbed. Kaylee did have really bad facial damage. Some of her teeth were missing. Several were broken. And she had 2 subdural hematomas to her head. So her nose was broken badly.
Yeah, so that, for me, it was outrage, because my daughter was fighting up to her very last breath. Over and over, she kept trying to get out of that bed, and he was just drilling her. Yeah. And she's fighting for her last breath. And I got this old Santa Claus who's just throwing out a white towel, just saying, oh, let's just make it all go away. And I want these type of killings to stop. And you don't do that with weak prosecutors. And this man is extremely bad at his job. And just yesterday, we asked AI, what are the safest countries in the world? And out of the top 10, every single one of them have the death penalty. Well, 8 of them have the capital. So for somebody to think that capital murder doesn't work, well, the safest countries in the world use it, and they don't use it like how we are in America. Yeah, as just a bargaining chip.
Yeah, Idaho has it, but our guys have been there for a long time, and we knew this wasn't going to happen fast. Yeah, but he was going to be on death row. It's the principle. He deserves to ultimately die. Now, maybe he's going to die of natural causes or just because he gets old in there. But we were hoping, because they just brought back the firing squad, that here in Idaho, things were going to pick back up and they were going to start, executing these murderers and these criminals that are on death row. But we knew it wasn't going to be anytime soon. We didn't think they're just going to take him out back and shoot him. I mean, that would be great. But even if it was exactly how they told us, they were just sleeping in their beds, they probably never even woke up, and they were just stabbed to death, little package of bow on it, we still would have wanted the death penalty.
So wait a minute. They still believe Kohberger did this last night without seeing the FBI evidence that was dropped. Well, let me show you if you've just joined us, because this is bombshell. People need to understand. I have updated the website early this morning, by the way. The analysis of Kohberger's DNA fiber hairs versus the victims was a big, fat nothing burger. You can go right to this website, download this information, or look through it. It's all there for your leisure. This laboratory report by the FBI clearly states, and I read it to you this last night in the video, it clearly states all of this evidence right here, all this microscopic examination of hairs, fiber from all the victims, and Kohberger's car, the headrest, everything in his apartment, everything in his vacuum, all the hairs and samples collected from anywhere in his being, apartment, bed, everywhere, microscopically. What did they find? Nothing of evidentiary value, nothing matched, and Kohberger was not present. This was unredacted. The one I just showed you was this is the original. Basically, it says the FBI found no connection of any of the victims' debris, hair, tissue, fibers, dog hair, animal hair. Nothing matched Kohberger. Nothing. This is the report. This is the report. And I also added the guilty plea advisory form, just so you know. And as we're watching this, last night, they had no idea that this was going to drop this morning. No idea. And they're still basically believing what the prosecutors are telling them, even though they know all this evidence doesn't lead up. I hope they talk. Because they weren't given the truth. Public wasn't given the truth. They covered this up, folks. Covered it up. All right. Let's see if this works. Can you guys see this? Here we go.
Going to be followed. You're going to be photographed. Everything you say is going to be parsed and analyzed and attacked. But you said you're still fighting. How?
We're still trying to get them to release documentation. They told us that as soon as we were out of court, they were going to give us all of the discovery. Just 2 days ago, they sent us an email and said, no, that we have to go through it as the freedom.
Because Christy and Steve, they don't want to be sued. You can take them for all they're worth. They're going to try to drag this out as long as they can so they are not liable. Wow.
Information Act. And we were in a meeting with.
You are kidding me. They're making you file a FOIA request for the documents?
Yeah, these people don't
2
do a
days
good
ago,
job.
because we kept saying, because they told us they would give it to us. They said they will give you all a discovery. And Shannon said, they're not going to have to go dig for it and get in line with everybody else. And they said, no, we'll give it to them. And we keep on asking. And then 2 days ago, we got an email and said, here's the links. You need to get on here and you need to file these forms and these requests. And there you go.
Which I did. And then it came back and said, we can't find any records on Kaylee. And I was like, all right, guys, tell me what department. The FBI has, like, let's just say over 10, and it's probably closer to 20. And I didn't know what department. I went for criminology justice, I believe, is where I did the FOIA. And they said, this is the wrong department. So I went back to them and said, can you at least tell me what department I'm getting a Freedom of Information Act on? And they're like, we don't have anyone to even talk to know. So they don't even know. And I'm like, You guys are clowns. You guys are clowns. You should be embarrassed to be this bad at your job. And I'll hold you accountable. And I think every family, when you lose your child, you have to like expect the most. When you're talking about life and death, you have to take charge of the situation. There's going to be a time for you to struggle and be a victim, but if you can rally up and then go into that system and say and demand justice, and demand that your child is treated as fair as possible, and you'll feel better when it's all said and done. You know, it's never going to bring them back. And I literally had a judge scream at me, we're not going to bring her back. And I was like, that's not what this is about. This is about you guys doing everything by the book.
Wait, the judge told you you're not going to bring her back?
Yeah. Yelling at me, telling me he didn't want me to talk to the media anymore. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. I'm going to talk to the media every single time I want. He basically said, well, then we'll never have a trial.
Yeah, he in a closed hearing.
I can't believe a judge told you how you're supposed to behave and you can't bring her back. That is not appropriate for a judge to tell a grieving parent, you can't bring her back. Let's just let it go. It's not going to bring her back. It's not about bringing her.
Yeah, they wanted to sweep it under the rug. Hello, we've been trying to tell you guys this for a long time. Cover up.
Her back. It is about justice.
Yeah, he actually said, he was talking, we all were in the courtroom or on Zoom, all the families. And he actually said, and the Goncalves family, especially the dad, needs to shut his mouth.
And I said, that ain't going to happen.
And he said, I don't agree with that. And he said, I don't care if you don't agree with that. And Steve said, well, I mean, you know, me, I'm fighting for justice for my daughter. And he says, do you think that that you're going to bring her back? Doing this all is talking to the media is going to bring her back? And Steve goes, no, I mean, I know that that's not going to bring her back, but you know, I still have,
we got to hold people accountable.
A voice, you know,
have to hold people accountable.
And,
how in the hell does he get off saying it's not going to bring her back to you who have lost your precious pearl, and he is telling you to speak or not speak? I mean,
I still had a son at that college. There was another victim's sister that went to WSU. We had lives still on the line, making sure that place was protected. And when we're sitting there saying, hey, we need to know the facts. We need to know were they stalked? What's going on? We have kids still going to school here. And they're just like, no, you don't have the right to know anything. And it was,
yeah. No,
do you think the other parents were duped? You think the other parents were duped, that they didn't understand the facts when they agreed to that plea?
So the plea, they set up a meeting with us via Zoom, our whole family, on a Friday afternoon. It was like an hour and a half long, and we talked about logistics of trial, because it was coming up. Security, where we're going to park, how we were going to have to phone in every day and tell them who's coming, and yada, 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 yada.
Our car had already been vandalized in their parking lot.
The Ada County.
So we're like, how do we make sure this doesn't happen anymore, guys?
And ironically, that day that we went to court, there was a bunch of pro burgers on the other side sitting behind Brian doing this and on the camera, and our car was vandalized. We're like, so
speaking it was all about the pro burgers, you know what I have in my hand? All of Koberger's complaints. I know it's kind of irrelevant. All that matters is Kelly is gone and her friends are gone, and he murdered them, and we're paying for his 3 hots and a cot. Okay, that's what matters. And is there any way under God's sun that it can be fixed? But I find it ironic that he is filing complaints that he is being threatened sex harassment through the air vent. Like he was the one looking up online, attacking and raping women in their sleep, when they were drugged, when they were passed out, when they were comatose. That's his.
This is an actual disgrace. Did Nancy Grace's team ever read the professors and the TA's statements on Koberger? Majority of them were favorable. She's not read the FBI reports. she is going to lose some followers over this because she has always been a credible source. Now they're backpedaling by having the mom and the dad on, Kaylee's mom and dad, on live nationwide TV. Nancy Grace is a household name, guys, in the crime industry. They're backpedaling now, being able to tell what happened in court. Didn't the producers put this together? That it was not Kohberger? And now after today, how are they going to reel back from this one? Because she's sitting here defaming Brian Kohberger. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Twisting the information on a piece of paper that may or may not be true. And if he is in fact being harassed by the state of Idaho, IDOC, inmates that are in custody of the state of Idaho, somebody needs to go tell that warden to knock that shit off in his jail, in his prison. Every single prisoner is in custody of the state of Idaho. So if Kohberger is being harassed, the state of Idaho is allowing that. Just saying, folks, you're getting feisty Phoenix today.
His fantasy. That's why he broke in that night when he assumed the girls would be asleep. He's whining that, Mommy, they're threatening me through the air vent. And he's actually, I love this one, that he's complaining about the food on his tray and the nutritional value of his food.
He didn't get his banana.
Wait a minute, Christy. He didn't get his banana? Whoa, these people have been so misled. I feel sorry for them, but they're allowing them to be manipulated. And I'm going to prove to you right here. I loaded this on our website, our community website, to get the truth out there. I am not a freaking pro-burger. I am true justice and our Constitution. If you go and you look at this, this was filled out by himself. Now, number 6 states, have you ever been diagnosed with a mental health disorder? Yes. Autism, 2025. Now, he probably knew he had it. His mom knew he had it. But a lot of people don't get medicated or checked or given care. His scans that the defense put in the record show neurodiversity issues in his brain. Now, he writes autism level 1. He writes OCD. Everybody knows what that is, hopefully. He writes ADHD. Hopefully, everybody knows what that is. And then he writes ARFID. That's an aversion to certain food groups. Does anybody else understand what that means? I'm going to be honest. I had to go look it up. I've seen it before. I know what it is, but it didn't hit me until I went and I read, what is AFRID? At first, I thought he wrote he was afraid, right? That's what I thought it was. But no, let me bring you up. It's avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. It means it's a condition that limits your food intake. It's caused by negative self-image or a desire to change your body weight. It's inherent behaviors. Fear and anxiety about food or consequences of eating, like choking, can lead to AFRID. Dude, when I had my stroke in 2022, I couldn't swallow well. You can go and look at the side effects of having a freaking stroke. Yes, it was documented. I was in the hospital. My kids were afraid that I was going to die. I thought I was going to have a really hard time leaving the hospital. I refused a walker. I walked out with a cane. The doctor was like, as long as you walk out with something. I had a bad gait. I had a slurred speech. I had to recover over the last few years. I was thankful that I recovered, unlike most people that don't recover from a stroke as well. Yes, I bet you probably would never know that. Why does she speak so slow sometimes? Well, now you know, because my brain's all jumbled up still. But if you would have seen me back in the day, I was on fire. I was on top of my shit. But let me tell you, even with the stroke, you still are more likely to choke on food. I know what that's like. Now, I'm not saying I associate with what he's going through, but what I understand is I avoid certain foods, so I know that I have a less likely ability to choke on food. Now, like I said, you're getting feisty Phoenix today. So for somebody to sit there and talk shit about somebody without even looking or investigating themselves to understand another human being, she would rather sit there and say, oh, I didn't get my banana today. What the frick is wrong with people in our society? This is the prime example of how this family was misled by the system, taking their anger out on somebody that the FBI has just said, no, it's not him, guys. It's a female. And the experts say it's a frickin' female and a male, a small source DNA that unalived Maddie Mogan. Well, who unalived your daughter, Steve? Where's the report for that? That's something you should be begging for, that I would be begging for, that I'll go and beg for you. But they're not going to release it. I'm going to tell you right now. They need to cover this up as long as they can. And these people are still believing the people in charge over them, the authority. Stand up for your freaking rights, Steve. You feel like you failed, Kaylee? You haven't failed, Kaylee. You haven't tried hard enough.
About the food on his tray and the nutritional value of his food.
He didn't get his banana.
And he refers to bringing the food like a butler. The service just hasn't been that good.
It's going to get a lot worse. He's the property of Idaho now, and it's going to get worse. I guarantee you that.
I like you said, I think it's very ironic. I'm like, you know, for him to get there and so quickly start complaining and even throwing out other inmates' names and CO names, it's like, you were in prison. I mean, like, this is not his forte. I mean, his forte is to kill, but not to be killed. You know, his forte is to, you know, possibly, I mean, he didn't murder any of our kids, but possibly, but not get. I mean, you know, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander here, you know? And I think it's just so ironic that he is complaining with written complaints and saying, this inmate so-and-so is doing this to me and saying this to me and this. And he expects them to come and save him.
Yeah. Well, they've been babying him, and we baby our prisoners. And when you become the property of a state, you should lose your constitutional rights. You shouldn't have all these rights as if you were a tax-paying citizen doing your best job, going to work every single day. We gotta fix some of these things, and we have been talking to legislators. You're asking of us things that we've done. We're not going to take this lightly. We're going to do everything from a victim's perspective. We've become advocates and witnesses for our kids, and we're trying to change it.
What word did they cut out? Let me go back. How far, Amanda? I was so fuming from my last. Oh gosh, let me see what they said.
But possibly, but not get. I mean, you
know, I heard it. They cut it out. That's why YouTube deleted the video. They cutted that portion out. I got it.
There and so quickly start complaining and even throwing out other inmates' names and CO names. It's like, you were in prison. I mean, like, this is not his forte. I mean, his forte is to kill, but not to be killed. You know, his forte is to, you know, possibly, I mean, he didn't murder any of our kids, but possibly, but not get. I mean, you know, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander here, you know? And I think it's just so ironic that he is complaining with written complaints and saying, this inmate so-and-so is doing this to me and saying this to me and this. And
yeah, I caught it, Amanda. She said it like 3 or 4 times. I caught it.
And he expects them to come and save him.
Yeah. Well, they've been babying him, and we baby our prisoners. And when you become the property of a state, you should lose your constitutional rights. You shouldn't have all these rights as if you were a tax-paying citizen doing your best job, going to work every single day. We gotta fix some of these things, and we have been talking to legislators. You're asking of us things that we've done. we're not going to take this lightly. We're going to do everything from a victim's perspective. We become advocates and witnesses for our kids, and we're trying to change it. And I think you guys can see that. That went all the way down to, you know, my daughter in the courtroom going after him and letting him know that we're not just going to be victims that you can keep down and keep trying to hurt, you know.
I do also think that they really upped the ante taking him to prison, which what we were hopeful for, because I think that Latah County Jail was a cakewalk. And then Ada maybe got a little
Oh, it was
tighter.
total Mayberry. It was total
yeah.
Mayberry. I couldn't believe it. This guy's going to have a tablet. He can watch movies. He can communicate with the outside world. I guarantee you, just give it a minute until people think this has died down. He is going to Zoom at some symposium. He's going to have this weird cult following, like you mentioned, the Pro Burgers. He can write a book. There's no Son of Sam laws in Idaho, I don't believe. He can even get married. I mean, it's so wrong. I feel like running out the street and screaming.
I called that months ago. I told you there was a facility in Pennsylvania that can accept him with his disabilities that will be a better place for him in Pennsylvania. I bet you that was already in the works. That was part of the plea deal, guys. I guarantee you, alleged, that was part of the deal. I even showed you on my stream the exact facility that's available in Pennsylvania. It's one of the very few in our country. One of the very few. And I'll tell you, I am an advocate for constitutional and civil rights. And there were so many that were overstepped in this case.
I think I just read somewhere the other day, which I know I did that. Does one of the Menendez brothers have a child?
Yes, he has a daughter.
He had children.
And even Jorn Vandersloot. You know Jorn Vandersloot that murdered two young girls? He murdered Natalie Holloway and Stephanie Tassiana Flores under similar circumstances. His judge daddy protected him. He's had not one but two babies behind bars. He drinks, he does drugs, he smokes, he gambles. It's like insane. But again, screw them and the horse they rode in on. I want to talk about what, if anything, can be done now. Starting with, do you believe the other families were duped? If they had known the truth, would they have gone along with the plea?
I can't say 100%. But the thing is, I don't want to speak on behalf of them by any means, but
I just have to stop and say this. They have the cutest fur babies that are sitting behind them.
I don't think that the other families necessarily wanted the truth. They didn't want to be lied to, but they didn't want details.
Yeah.
And we did.
But
we weren't just like, okay, she was stabbed to death around 20. We're like, how many? You know, where? And because I do talk to Maddie's mom, and Maddie's mom is like, please, please, please. Like, I don't, you know, so I don't say anything to her when I speak to her about, you know, what happened. She's like, I don't read that stuff. I don't watch it. Our thing is, we have kids, you know, we have two that are older, we have two that are younger, and you can't tell them to stay off social media for the rest of their lives. And I don't want one of them open up TikTok and seeing crime scene photos of their sister or body cam. So we're like, we're trying to stay one ahead. And as a mother, even if I didn't have children, I would still, as much as it has traumatized me, I would still want to know what happened. I want to know what happened from top to bottom.
Christy, isn't it true? You basically got an email saying, hey, we got a deal.
Yes. On a Sunday afternoon. They sent it at 4:53 p.m. We happened to be checking his email a little later, around 6 or so, and he said, what? And we lost our minds. We immediately emailed them and said, we need to talk, like now, like what, has this been sent yet? Have you offered it yet? What is going on? They sent us an email the next morning and said, we can meet at 3 today. And we said, you didn't answer. Has this been sent already? And they said, yes, it was sent yesterday evening to the defense. And so we met with them at 3 that day on Monday, and the plea had already been accepted. And we lost our minds. We were in that meeting. I mean, we were screaming, we were cussing, we were yelling, we were saying, why did you do this? How did you do this? You know, what happened? You just talked to us on Friday and told us that, you know, you had every anticipation of taking this all the way. We talked about court. I mean, we talked about a plea deal for like a second, and he just said, oh, I think that they might be wanting one, but we have no reason to give them one. You know, why would we? And we're like, yeah, right. Why would we? And he said, well, how do you guys feel about a plea deal? And we're like, no, absolutely not. No. Boom, moved on.
Yeah, he accepted the plea deal within the same hour that he got it. This man never wanted to fight for our children. Literally, I mean it. They fought for their lives, for their very last breath, and this man had no fighting.
Did you hear that, guys? Did you hear what Steve G just said? Did you catch what Steve G said? I'm going to play it back, because to me, it seems like he was saying Brian had no fight for these kids. Listen to this. Listen to the context he says it.
You just talked to us on Friday and told us that, you know, you had every anticipation of taking this all the way. We talked about court. I mean, we talked about a plea deal for like a second, and he just said, oh, I think that they might be wanting one, but we have no reason to give them one. You know, why would we? And we're like, yeah, right. Why would we? And he said, well, how do you guys feel about a plea deal? And we're like, no, absolutely not. No. Boom, moved on.
Yeah, he accepted the plea deal within the same hour that he got it. This man never wanted to fight for our children.
Did you hear that? This man accepted the plea within the same. Is he talking about Thompson, or is he talking about Koberger? Who is he talking about?
Literally, I mean it. They fought for their lives, for their very last breath, and this man had no fighting. They fought hard all the way to the end, and he gave up within an hour of being given an opportunity to quit on these kids. And that.
Oh, he's talking about Thompson. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood. I want to make sure I understand he was talking about Bill, because for the first part I heard, I thought maybe they knew that Koberger was innocent and he was going to fight Bill in trial and win. And then they would have to go back to the drawing board and figure out who they were going to charge with this unaliving, with this murder. That's the way I was looking at it. So I was looking at it from a standpoint that Koberger didn't have the fight in him to fight Bill Thompson for a no guilty verdict. Because if they would have went to trial, all this would have came out. The truth would have came out if it went to trial.
That's the kind of problem.
Everything we know now would have been already told to us last month. Last month. We would have already been halfway through trial.
Prosecutor that you got to get. You got to get him out. You got to get real prosecutors in Idaho. We got some jobs to do. We got some work to do there.
Yeah, you have to have a prosecutor that, if you're in a death penalty state, believes in capital punishment.
Yeah, it's not your will. It's the victim's will. If they don't want it, then fine. But we had 4 people. And
Bill Thompson has never talked to us since that Zoom meeting that we had, and we were just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you did that.
Wait a minute, he's never talked to you since? He's been all over the media, but he hasn't talked to you?
Nope. When we did get a briefing, it was from the investigator, the 2 investigators.
And Ashley Jennings, so the deputy. But Bill Thompson, because I mean, we were going after him. I mean, our whole family was in different windows, and we were all just coming at him. We were just like, Bill, like, how could you do this to us?
So this guy did not have the balls to talk to you after the deal, because he knew he had done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I said, did you at least get some details? Did you at least find out about the kill kit, the knife, anything? He goes, Steve, we'll never get those details. You're never going to get those details. It's not important. He's just going to lie to us. And I said, you are absolute idiot.
Yeah, because they wanted to sweep it under the rug. Case closed. Stop talking about it, all you programmers. He took a plea deal.
You have no idea who this person is.
Bye, Liv. We'll see you later.
He is going to write a book, and I'm going to learn about the sickest details through his prophet book, through its sister, or through some professor, whatever way he does it. I'm going to hear about him, and you're an idiot for not even knowing who you're dealing with.
You know, I think maybe I can get a straight answer from you guys. What do you believe Kohberger's motive was? Not that the state needs to prove it. I don't know why they kept talking about we can't prove.
In Idaho, you don't have to prove a motive.
Motive. It doesn't matter. You don't have to prove motive in a murder case. But what do you believe was his motive?
I think that he had been watching either Kaylee or Maddie, and I don't think the others were involved. And that's why he went straight up to that room. That house is so confusing. It's just they're just a build on from hell. They just built on and built on and built on and throughout the years. So it is a very confusing floor plan. And we know that he went in there very quickly. He wasn't, he went in and he went out. And
they are still believing he was in there. This was last night. What are they going to do when all this other future evidence is dropped? I mean, I would have just been silent till all the evidence is dropped.
And he may have tried to walk into Kaylee's room first. We don't know. And Kaylee's bed was empty. So he's like, I'm going into Xana's.
He wasn't there. No fiber, no DNA, no pet, nothing from his apartment, nothing from his car. You think at the rate that he fought, that you're saying alleged, he fought these 4 individuals, he would have dropped blood, sweat, eyebrow, hair, DNA, tissue, shedding tissue. Hello, people. Hell freaking low. I'm just baffled. I wonder what they think today after that FBI evidence dropped and the actual evidence for the DNA. I wonder if they're sitting around now saying, who was the female? Who freaking killed Maddie Mogen? That female DNA, I've got the pie chart up. I'll share it for you. There's the answer. This was done. Prosecution knew at this point they were cooked. The DNA, 83% was Maddie Mogen's own body DNA. Then it was Kaylee. Obviously, they were found together. They went out. They shared. They were best of friends. They hung out. And then 4% of unknown females and 1% male. A female more likely unalived Maddie Mogen than a male. She was laying in her bed. Think about it. Wow. This is almost over. It's only got like 10 minutes and we're done.
Or Maddie's, and maybe went into Maddie's and then got mad because Kaylee woke up and was like, oh, there's 2 in here. But I think it was some sort of an obsession. Some sick, twisted, stalking. Maybe he hated one of them. Maybe it was both.
Now they bring in hate. Now she brings in they hated them. Wow. Okay, now I feel like they are so conflicted.
I think it was hate.
There was no blood on Kaylee's door, so that would lead us to believe he went there first, opened the door, seen the dog or seen something, and then said, okay, there's nobody here. Then I'm thinking he went to Maddie's room. And you don't see blood on that door, but the other door downstairs, they do see blood on it. So I think we're just going through this, reverse engineering it. We've talked to detectives and things like that now. And we believe that explains who he was going for. And he definitely stalked them. He stalked multiple girls on that hillside. He's a copycat killer, and he just was really poor at it. And you can look at his handwriting. He might be a PhD student in Pennsylvania, but he would have had a way harder time out here. He looked like a little kid, like a little fifth.
Y'all hanging in here watching this, we appreciate it. I appreciate it because we are getting more information than before, than ever right now at this moment of time in this case, other than we will get more information on September 19th. So sit tight.
Great, or write that paper. So I can't believe that.
Guys,
That's
why do
it.
you think everybody is attacking Dylan and Bethany, acting like they did something wrong or even part of the murders? It's insane.
I hate it. We absolutely hate it. And it just, I fear, and these girls are so young, and for them to have to deal with this for forever. And I mean, I'm not going to say that the events that occurred that night were strange. Do we think they were involved in any way? No. Could they have saved the kids if they were to call 911 right then and there? No. But I mean, but you know, when you go into fear, you go into that flight or fight mode, and maybe that was they flew, you know, and they cuddled up together. It is very clear.
You know
that
what's interesting about what you said when you were talking about you saw the LA law enforcement come up in your driveway, you ran to the bedroom. That, I mean, it's hard to explain in the heat of the moment, the fog of war, why anybody does anything that they do.
Yeah.
Why did I throw all my books down? I don't know why I did that. Why did you run to the bedroom? I don't know. Why does anybody do anything? And attacking those girls is just like more victimization. Another thing, I know you've got to go. I find it really interesting that Washington State had this long history of his anti-woman, misogynist, stalking behavior, and did.
Oh my God, they're talking about the document of the girl that Brian Koberger flirted with. Guys, this is crazy. Flirted with a girl, found out she was married and had a disability, and then this girl stalked Koberger, in my humble opinion, alleged, based on her testimony in the documents that she timed when he was late for class. She watched him vigorously. I'm just like, you can't make this shit up. Why does Nancy gloss over that and not read the whole freaking document herself? Not, if she's looking for clicks and views, she's got them. But this guy is being defamed left and right. It's wrong. And they just keep doing it.
Nothing.
Hit it.
That's really interesting. If he had been thrown out, he wouldn't have even been there.
Exactly.
Yep. And he should have been thrown out before he ever killed these kids. That's the truth. If they should have set a standard and said, look, we don't put up with this in our university. You cross the line, you're done. It's not even our decision. It's just your behavior. We're holding you accountable. You should behave like this. That's the expectations in Washington State University. And you either do it or you don't.
I mean, he had 13 in the first semester. The first one came in August. That's the first month that you come to school. And then 12 after. And November had a huge, Thanksgiving break. And then he didn't even go the whole month of December. He took off like December 9th or 10th. And there's 13 formal complaints. What were they doing?
What was he doing? Following them, stalking them?
Just being would kind of act aggressive and stand in doorways from what we've read, and the girls would have to like walk past him and like yeah.
Guy should have been punched in the face. He was a creep, man. He's a disgusting creep. The kind of guy. We even heard about it from the Seven Sirens bar, where those girls put a little note saying, "Hey, if you get this credit card, watch out for this guy." I mean, he's been doing this his whole life, and we didn't stand up to him. And we need to start standing up to these type of bullies. And hopefully Idaho will get it right. Hopefully those prisoners in there, they'll do the real justice. They'll act like real men in there, and they'll handle it the way that it should be handled in the first place.
Yeah.
Is there any way in your mind that this plea can be reversed, or any way that the feds may seek the federal death penalty?
We've heard that and we've seen that, and a lot of people have reached out to us and said that, this can happen, but we don't understand why it wasn't federal in the first place. I mean, he crossed state lines to kill. He drove from Washington to Idaho. We never understood why it wasn't a federal.
Because the feds knew it wasn't him. They can't take a case and prosecute it federally if they know it wasn't him. That FBI lab report came from Salt Lake Salt Lake City, FBI. Hello.
Case in the first place. But I think
Exactly.
they're just like, it's done.
I've
you
got
know?
another question, because a lot of crime victims are watching you right now. Do you ever feel Kelly's presence with you?
I do. I do. Not as much as I would like, but once in a great while I do. And it's funny because
This is terrible to say, but I feel Kaylee's more presence stronger with me than probably her own mother. I think Kaylee wants us to find justice, guys. Not just for Brian, but for herself and her true friends.
you know, like you're outside and a little ladybug will, a ladybug will land on you and you're like, oh, it's bug. And then you're like, oh, ladybug, so ladybugs really get me because it's not that common that a ladybug will land on you. But Kaylee was bug. She was our bug. That's what we call her, K-bug. And
oh my God. I cannot believe she just said that. My daughter, my youngest, is my bug. She is my M-bug. I cannot be. Oh my gosh, you guys, I can't.
And we all just recently got ladybug tattoos, but ladybugs are very special. And I feel like, and then here's another thing is Kaylee was, she loved Stitch when she was born. Stitch just came out, the cartoon Stitch, the Disney. And so we bought her everything Stitch. And it's very ironic that since Kaylee passed away, Stitch has been kind of brought back. They've done a new movie with Stitch. So there's Stitch stuff everywhere. So we'll be in the store, this and that, and we'll be like, and you'll see the most ironic little Stitch figure or Stitch stuffed animal in this whole mess of other stuffed animals or something, in this little Stitch face. And we'll be like, oh my gosh, it's Kaylee, just in the strangest places, you'll find a Stitch, small or big one or something. And it's just like, Kaylee. So Stitch and ladybugs.
Guys, how do you speak with a straight face? How do you keep being so strong? I'm looking at Steve Goncalves and his face is like granite. How do you stay so strong?
Because it's so important. And I love our country. I love the state of Idaho. I want things to get better. I don't want these kind of sickos to prosper. And for us to win, we need real leaders. We need real men and real strong women who can stand up to these people. I'm making them. I'm raising them. I got some of the strongest girls in the freaking world. And he killed one of them. Hold them accountable. I feel like we got a job to do. And I think if parents get a little more proactive and be a little bit more vocal towards that prosecution, they can force the media to help hold them accountable. And I really believe that the government works for us. I believe that government is servitude. You go in to serve. You don't go in there for your own opinion. You might not believe in the death penalty. We don't care. It's the victims and their families. That's what you should be negotiating for. You're their vote. You're proxying their will through into the courtroom. And I think the court's lost that. And we're going to try to bring that back. I mean, there's a reason why we took our daughter to Texas. She had a full scholarship. We said, you're going to Texas because they honor their victims. They do everything in their power. Florida's another one.
Not that we're going to have another victim.
No.
Not happening. But
I don't know if you know this.
You don't show.
And these are not just empty words. But I want you to know from the beginning, the very beginning, you are the focus of so many prayers for you, for your children, for Kelly, not just for what you have endured, but what you will endure. And I want to thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you to your audience.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've seen some comments